Welcome back, guys. This is Smooth and Crypto. I'm your host, Maxwell Smooth. We got an amazing special guest today, Jake Sharp. He's releasing a project called TitanX. It's super bullish, in my opinion, and I'm really excited, man. Um, um, Hold on, I got a little overlap.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll post a link in the chat as well, so everybody can hop on.
All right, cool.
So for the people that are relatively new, I did 2 streams, one with Crypto Kindness, that was roughly 4 days ago, and one with Diverse. I would highly recommend watching those as well. I have a gut feeling that we're probably going to go a lot more in detail on this one, because I don't know, we seem to go a lot more in detail with the game theory minds, and then Crypto Kindness was great at just bringing it back to basics. So it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I would just for people that don't know what the project is, kind of like one of those things that what is your kind of elevator pitch for this project? Because I mean, I could go on and on what I think about it, but I just want to hear your thoughts about it.
Yep. So I'm still kind of working on the elevator pitch, but I guess the way to kind of start it off is with what kind of problems we're trying to solve. So I've been in crypto since first got into crypto 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really take it serious, just experienced the bull market, made money, nothing crazy. But then end of 2019, I went really deep into crypto. And for some reason, I've always been obsessed with game theory and tokenomics. So ever since 2019, I have a document, a Google sheet, and it's like, I think at this point, it's like 570 rows long with all the tokenomics and game theory I've seen on all the projects I've looked at. And one of the issues I've always noticed is even if a project has good tokenomics and has a good community behind it, they usually end up getting completely destroyed because of venture capitalists and pre-sales and seed rounds that nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they come on market, the moment VC coins unlock, they dump on the community and the project is kind of disappears into nothingness because the price crashed 99% pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these cryptos that have good potential usually end up just becoming VC enrichment schemes. So I started talking to some of my friends, which are very smart crypto heads. Some of them are influencers, some of them are not. And we've seen this very recurring theme that we all seem to agree on, that the next wave, especially for this bull market, is going to be fair launch cryptos that don't have any pre-sale, no sacrifice, no VCs, no nothing. Just code that launches on chain, and then a grassroots community builds around it and takes it the distance pretty much. The perfect example of this was Pepe. Pepe was relatively fair launched, and that thing did like 100,000x plus in under a month.
Yeah, quick.
And that's the perfect example of a fair launch. So we're now seeing a narrative shift. And one of the issues I've also kind of identified is all of these cryptos, individually, they have like a good tokenomic here, a good tokenomic there, a good tokenomic there, but then they have a lot of bad stuff attached to it. And I've never seen a crypto project take all of the good ideas and good tokenomics, put it under one roof, and make it fair launch. I'm like, why is nobody doing this? So we decided to take the task of doing this, which ended up becoming TitanX. And it's fair launch, meaning that the users bring all of the initial supply into existence through something called mining. So in TitanX, you can start miners. You don't need hardware, you don't need GPUs, you don't need CPUs, none of that. You just go to the dApp, you use Ethereum plus time, you spend your Ethereum in the dApp. Your Ethereum doesn't disappear, it doesn't get sent to me. It just goes in the contract to go and strengthen the protocol through liquidity and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, the initial users bring the initial supply into existence. And we designed this thing so that the liquidity, the buy pressure, the payouts, everything scales together with the users. And a big idea is fair launching. Another big idea is using grassroots communities. And one of the other things I've also noticed is you can have projects that have good tokenomics, but then they have an anonymous founder that just ends up rug pulling all of it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues we're trying to solve at once. But I'm still working on the elevator pitch. If people want to check out the white paper, it's docs.titanx.win. But the core...
I'll drop it in here too.
Oh, perfect. The core mission for TitanX is essentially to become a base layer. Not a base layer like Ethereum, but a base layer where other projects can actually come and build on top of TitanX through something called the proof of burn function. And that way we can actually build a whole Titan ecosystem, and TitanX will essentially be the core behind it. that has the biggest fundamentals, the best tokenomics, the best liquidity pool, and then the community can build on top of it. And we can build something that is true DeFi and truly owned by the communities without any VCs or any other of that garbage.
Yeah, I've definitely, just as long as I've been in crypto, I've obviously been scammed like that. Secret ghost VCs that have been in there way before even the initial coin offering was even there, right? And just it's just very shady stuff. And the fact that you have a fair launch, and even yourself is getting in there on day one, I think that's so bullish because people won't really think you're going to rug ever because you're in there day one, right? You're not getting any type of advantage over other people. You're in there just like the community is. And I think that's really, really bullish and awesome that you're doing that. It truly is.
It is. It's so coming back to the VC thing. It is a very big issue. So the only way to really solve that, because one of the reasons we made the design decision to make a fair launch is also because all of us want to bring our friends and family into crypto.
Mm-hmm.
But then usually what happens is you bring your friends and family into crypto and they end up buying the top.
Yeah.
Because they can never
Right,
buy the seed rounds and pre-sales. And then they come in, they buy the top, they become exit liquidity for the early people, and then they get dumped on. The only way to stop that is to have some kind of token distribution where the big chunk of the initial supply gets brought into existence through mining. Is honestly the only way I found where you can actually fairly do it, where everybody has a fair opportunity, as long as they're willing to wait. Yeah, I think that's the future, man. I think this bull market is going to be the bull market of fair launches.
I like that. I mean, especially since I've been in crypto since about 2016, right before that kind of initial huge Bitcoin run. And I just left and right. It's been non-fair launches, been VCs every single time, and all of the major coins have had that kind of attribute toward them when they're starting their projects. So very seldom do you see fair launch coins because the people who start them, they want their coins, right? They want their big investors to have coins. They really want to kind of reward the original people, right? But I think a fair launch, if you want full trust and a really good price chart, I think that's the way to do it because you're really getting out all of the bad externalities that is in the launch of crypto with those already existing big whale bags, percentage wise at least, whether it's a lot of money or not a lot of money, the percentage of coins really affects later down the road. So I think you doing a fair launch and having everything start from day one. And if you get in, you get in, and if you don't get in the first day, you get in the second day, you'll have a little less of an opportunity and so on and so on. So I think it's really, really awesome that it has a fair launch.
Yeah. And then a lot of the design principles are also important because you don't really need to trust the founder if it's designed correctly, meaning that it has no admin keys. So for example, what usually happens how projects get rug pulled is the founder or some kind of team has all of the coins that are in the initial liquidity pool, and then the price pumps up, and then they rug the liquidity pool and take whatever kind of money is in there. Mm-hmm. That's not even possible in this case. So the way it works with the initial liquidity pool is we have two smart contracts. We have the TitanX core smart contract, and then we have a buy and burn smart contract. Essentially what happens is the buy and burn smart contract actually goes ahead and creates the pool on Uniswap v3. When you create a pool on Uniswap v3, you get an NFT that represents it, and this NFT represents ownership of the pool. I never get to touch that NFT because the buy and burn creates the initial liquidity pool, and there's no admin keys to be able to touch the liquidity pool whatsoever. And then the way the protocol operates, it's all publicly callable functions for all the functions inside of the protocol, meaning that any users can call everything that the protocol needs to do without having to rely on a central body. So even if I wanted to rug pull, I actually couldn't. And that's kind of how you want these things to be designed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I haven't seen, I think the reason a lot of us find each other is because in these whole like Richard Hart communities, I think Richard Hart was one of the first big advocates of true DeFi and showing people how you actually build true DeFi. No admin keys, smart contracts, everything, publicly callable functions, transparent on-chain training. I feel like we're one of the only communities where like true DeFi actually really launches from. And then everything else is just kind of like this whole VC, pre-sale, seed stuff, other side of crypto. It's very interesting to watch because all the true DeFi seems to be blooming from like this corner, this niche of crypto.
It's really weird. I mean, you see Uniswap trying to do KYCs and stuff like that, and they're trying to say it's optional until it's not. You know what I mean? And I think just a trustless protocol, like TitanX and like other projects in our little corner, I think it's really gonna. We saw a lot of DeFi last bull run kind of really pop off, but I really think this next bull run, if we have it, God forbid, who the hell knows, right? But I really think this is going to be one of the biggest catalysts towards actual what crypto is made for. We're in the fifth cycle, whatever you want to call, and a lot of times stuff that you think is going to go the way it is, it doesn't. But I think with true decentralized applications like this, that will always be kind of in the forefront of crypto because that's kind of where we started, So
yeah, it's the interesting part is because I'm looking at some of the comments is one of the biggest issues that most cryptos just fail to solve is liquidity and buy pressure. I have a very big belief that pretty much every crypto, like the saying of like, hey, I'm in it for the tech. I think that's a load of garbage. Everybody's in it to make money, and then the only reason they like tech is because they believe tech grows the community and thus pumps the coin.
Right.
So one question I've always asked myself, and this became very apparent. So were you around for like the Pulse Chain, Pulse X sacrifices?
Yeah.
Is one of the things that I always kind of find annoying is, for example, with Pulse X, and this was a relatively common theme amongst the community of being like, hey, why does the DEX need to have another coin? Why doesn't the buy and burn just go towards Hex? Why do we need another coin? Why do we need a good tokenomic here, a good tokenomic here, and then just have them separate, like economic energies? I wasn't a fan of that. So I feel like putting everything under one roof is big, and then making the base layer. So actually, like for the people that don't know, TitanX has a function called proof of burn, and this was inspired by Zen. We've made some improvements, so we call it Proof of Burn 2.0. But this initial function was actually made for us because another downfall you see with crypto teams is what they do is they start a coin, and then they start another coin, and this other coin is in no way, shape, or form economically linked to the first one. So it just splits the community, splits the buy pressure, and none of them actually go anywhere. So this Proof of Burn idea was a beautiful way of bringing everything back to the core, the thing that has the biggest liquidity, the biggest community that has been around the longest, and therefore this proof of burn function was actually initially built for us so that you can have your founder ADD and you can just build protocols that buy and burn and provide liquidity to the core token. And then you can have this core token that's kind of the core token of the ecosystem, and then everything comes to support it. So we had one of the things that I also found very interesting. Now, Atropa is like, for the people that know Atropa, is basically just a coin on Pulse Chain, and they just link liquidity pools together with a bunch of random coins. The issue is it's an anonymous developer under the name Maria, which is 100% a fat dude hiding behind the name of a woman.
If I was a betting man, right? That's what I think too.
Exactly. And they end up rug pulling half their coins, and then they hide it under hey, the liquidity is linked. So what they do, and this is kind of extremely scammy, which is why they need to be anonymous, is they start a bunch of new coins, they make them pump up 10x, and then they rug the liquidity pool and put it back into Atropa. It's also kind of disgusting, but the idea of linking liquidity together and having everything go towards a central coin, I've always liked. So that's also a very core design intention of Titan. So the second protocol, Hyper, is actually built completely around TitanX. So that they're operating hand in hand. The liquidity pools will strengthen each other, and all the buy and burn stuff will do some crazy liquidity stuff, and it's gonna be some pretty nasty stuff. I'm very excited for that. That's gonna be the first protocol.
I am too. Are you willing to give any type of information on Hyper as of yet?
What I will say is, so Hyper is still under design as of now. We want to get it out roughly. This is not a date in any way. We have to see how the development goes. but roughly 2 to 3 months in is kind of, I would say 3 to 4 months in is what we're kind of aiming for. Because first we need to get TitanX off the ground, have a critical mass of community, and then we can launch Hyper on top of it. So Hyper will adopt some of the liquidity stuff. So for example, we have a buy and burn contract in TitanX. I think liquidity and buy pressure is the only thing that matters. So at Hyper, what we will do is Hyper will be a protocol fee. So people can actually transfer their TitanX. They can transform it into Hyper and pay a fee to do so. This fee, Hyper will have its own buy and burn smart contract. What that smart contract will do is it will actually buy TitanX on the market and then sell it for Hyper. And there will be a very benevolent whale that will make this liquidity pool extremely thick. And people will have to burn their Titan to get Hyper, which reduces the Titan supply. And then you have this buy and burn operating between the two liquidity pools, basically closing all ARB opportunities. There's a lot of game mechanics to it. But I think TitanX and Hyper together, I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised because it's kind of what Atropa is trying to do, but does it in a very rug pulling way, but it kind of take 20% of the money.
Right.
So this is all trustless and permissionless, and I don't think anything will be able to compete, man. It's going to be good.
I like the way that sounds. It sounds like a very sticky protocol. And that's just one thing built on TitanX, right? If there's more and more things being built on TitanX, then it's just going to get more and more and more sticky. And it seems like every protocol will potentially use that buy and burn mechanism that you have in there, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So Hyper is the first one. And frankly, I think TitanX and Hyper should be enough to send everything. It's so hard to not talk about price predictions because I've modeled this entire thing out because I'm the founder. It's like a very, trembling ground to step on. But I'm very excited.
Yeah, and you don't want to put any expectations out there either. I totally get it. Yeah, so what if you kind of had a magic wand and you could build any type of protocols, like say I was a programmer and I wanted to build projects on TitanX, what would be your ideal kind of maybe top 3, maybe 1 or 2 type of projects that you'd like to see built on TitanX?
I kind of developed this mental model of looking at crypto. I kind of look at any big crypto that has a big enough liquidity pool as its own country. So you have Ethereum, then you have Pulse Chain, then you have Hex, then you have Chainlink. You have all of these other different coins that have different kind of economic principles within their country. And I think if we want TitanX to truly become an ecosystem, you also need to build the legacy banking system around that token. So a borrowing and lending protocol similar to Liquidity, but then using TitanX as collateral, that would be a great one. Then some games around it, like FOMO 3D and stuff, just kind of build on top of TitanX, utilizing both buy and burns. There's a lot of games we can play. I'm not a big fan of meme coins. I'm a big fan of anything that removes sell pressure and adds buy pressure and increases the liquidity pool. If anything implements that, I'll be supporting it. If it's just a meme coin, like people can do their thing.
Right.
Obviously, I can't stop anything. It's all permissionless. So people can build whatever the hell they want. But it's definitely something we're looking at, like having a lending protocol, because TitanX, if it gets sufficient adoption, it's kind of designed to be one of the biggest liquidity pools on Ethereum because of how the buy and burn works and then the supply coming into existence and scaling it out over time. It should become one of the biggest liquidity pools on Ethereum. And then once it has a big enough liquidity pool and most supply is out. So for example, in the first year, it will hyperinflate massively and it starts reducing on day 2. But the first year is usually when most of the inflation will happen. And then year 2, year 3, year 4, like the nominal inflation actually goes down to, we did some modeling on this. Instead of it being like 1,000% plus in a year, it goes down to like 0.001%. So it actually kind of becomes a capped token, which is great. And then you can build this entire ecosystem out around it. So you have Hyper, lending protocol, all of this stuff to kind of give everything that country would need and kind of build a legacy banking system around it where you can do borrowing and lending and people can build on top of it. And I think I like that idea a lot. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, just create a dense ecosystem for it. And, with the TitanX token, would it be better to build a project on top of it within the first year or after that first year? Obviously, sooner is better for the most part speaking, but would with the inflation, would it be better for the first year or years past that?
I think first year. Because I think in our models, TitanX should become deflationary roughly 700 days in. Yeah, roughly 700 days in, it becomes deflationary through the buy and burn alone. Like no proof of burn of any kind, no hyper, no
Mhm.
projects, no nothing. Should become deflationary 700 days in. If something like hyper gets sufficient adoption within the Titan community, we could make it deflationary like 150 days in, which at that point, the inflation actually doesn't matter anymore because it's
Yeah,
net
right,
deflationary.
right.
Um, that's kind of what I'm most excited about. So I'm very excited to see how people will take in hyper once it's live, because we're still modeling out the game theory. But that would be great. Having something like hyper. Hyper will also give people an. I'll give this piece of alpha. Hyper was initially also designed to give people liquidity on their stakes. So on TitanX, when you either mine TitanX tokens and claim your tokens from the miner, then you have TitanX, or you buy it on Uniswap from somebody else or the initial liquidity pool. Then you can take those tokens and you can stake. You can stake up to a max of 3,500 days. All the bonuses cap on day 2,888, meaning that the longer out you go, the less you pay per share. So the way the staking system works, and this might be important to share, is it's not based on your tokens. It's based on something called share. So the base share rate starts at 800 and then moves up 0.03% a day. So let's say day one, you pay 800 per share. But if you go out and put your stake up to 2,888 days, you actually get 350% more shares. And it's linear. So if you go like 288 days, you get 10% of that, which is 35%. And it drops your share rate from 800 to 177. Now, once you do that, you are locked in, meaning that you can't get out of your stake until 50% has passed. So if you lock in for 3,000 days, you can't get anything back until day 1,500.
Okay.
Now, one of the ways we designed it is the yield is liquid. So you earn yield on Ethereum. And whenever a payout cycle happens, you can actually go ahead and claim your Ethereum. It's just your tokens that are locked, but your yield is liquid. So people will still, have passive income from it and stuff. They don't have to wait until the end of their stake. But we also, with Hyper, core design intention was also to make it that people can actually burn their stakes and become liquid through Hyper. So they can actually go ahead and max stake, and then whenever they want to get out the stake, they actually just burn it for Hyper, which reduces the future supply, takes the shares out of existence, causes the buy and burn loop. There's a lot of game theory here.
That is a lot of game theory. I'm really excited. It just seems like with any projects that are going to be built, obviously, Hyper seems like a very deliberately thought out protocol to be put on TitanX. But I just think with the more innovation and the more projects that are built on top of this, it just seems like it will give the liquidity pools a really thick, where you need it. And I'm really, really excited about that, man. And like I was talking to you about, I've tried to build some games and stuff, and here building a type of game, I think that just puts straight up buy pressure or removes tokens or something. That's kind of the most important. So maybe not a play to earn game, but call it a play to burn game, and just something kind of really simple and whatnot. I think that would just kind of give it even more of a push tokenomics wise.
Yeah, for sure. One of the interesting things I've noticed in crypto is if you look at the gaming sector of crypto, is usually the games are absolute garbage.
Yeah.
But because there's some news event about them putting a game out, their token actually pumps like hell. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you see it do a 20x on like a simple Unity game that everybody can make in a week.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like the more big news events we can create, and this is also something the Verse talked about on the stream I did with him, is the more big news events we can create within the community, the better it's going to be for everybody involved. So even these small little things, as long as it's a big news event, that's all it really takes
Right.
to attract liquidity and users. It's
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
interesting.
how many random games just popped off last time, and they were maybe profitable for like the first month ish, you know what I mean? But just because they had that big news article or video made about it, whatever the case may be, that's what gave it that pump. And if I mean, when you first put out the white paper, and we've been starting to tweet about it and make some videos and everything, people really did start to pay attention, right? And this all that's out is really the white paper and stuff you said on Twitter and Telegram and everything. But just before this stream, I just put in YouTube like TitanX. That's all I typed in, and there was tons of videos about it, man. Whether it was talking negatively, positively, trying to figure out what's going on, you know what I mean? But it seems like there is some eyeballs on this project and it's not even out yet. You don't even have a hard date, which is honestly super impressive.
Yeah. I mean, we're aiming to get it out before end of month, so we're waiting on the. So we did the first audit. We got final sign off on that on 8th of October. So he found 2 or 3 highs, 1 or 2 criticals. We fixed everything. Then did a fix review on all the changes that we made. We got final sign off on the first auditor. Second auditor started on 9th, 8th or 9th of October. I think he started at midnight. He's found 1 critical, which was literally 1 word. We had some unchecked in the code. And other than that, he's pretty much signing it off. So we're getting the final second audit back, probably tomorrow or the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And then potentially looking at a third audit. Well, we could finish all of that before end of month. But right now I'm feeling very confident because game theory is locked in. People know about it. Nothing will really change up until this point. And then before end of month is kind of what we're aiming for. At the third audit, even if we do a third audit, an audit on average, so our code base is relatively large. So it takes 8 to 9 days of a full auditor's time to audit. So we can still get it out before end of month, even if we do a third audit. And then once we get final sign off on the second audit, I'll feel a lot more comfortable giving an exact date.
Right. How much time would you say, like roughly, from the moment you set the date to launch date? How long do you think that kind of time period would be?
I mean, it
But
could be 2 days.
you want it to be enough, but you also don't want it to be like 2 months waiting, you know?
Exactly. I mean, you kind of want to. This is also an interesting thing. It's you want it to be enough time so people hear about it, because the initial community, the people that hold the initial supply, should be kind of the best way to put it is diehard believers. You know, people that have been around in crypto for a long time. They've been around the entire bear market. They're like diehard crypto. Those are the type of people you want to hold the initial supply. So you want to make noise, but you don't want to make too much noise where like the normies start caring,
Right.
because they're supposed to come in later on in the cycle and kind of distribute the supply a lot more. But in the beginning, you just want the diehards in, because those are exactly the people you want at the beginning of the community,
Mm-hmm.
because that kind of DNA trickles out to all of the new people that end up joining the community. So I think even if we put a launch date, like it could be literally be 2 days before. Hey, we're launching in 2 days.
And I like that. You know, I've been into some projects where, you know, the communication from the devs and stuff are absolutely terrible. And what they eventually do is just it gets to the point where they miss their deadlines so much that they eventually just stealth launch. And I think just a couple days of you know, kind of like a hey, it's coming. I think that's fair. Especially if you already been on your Twitter, you know, you're in the Telegram, this and that, you're not going to miss that. And I'm sure a lot of people will be retweeting and you'll make a video, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think that's a fair thing. So a couple days, even if it's a week, you know, that wouldn't even be too bad. But I think a couple days is probably the way to go.
Yeah. One of the things I've also noticed is you kind of have, and this is the reason we started talking about Hyper now, is because you want to have something that people can look forward to in the future. Like for example, Zen. Zen, when it launched, it had most of its adoption during its first 5 days. And then it had its second biggest wave of adoption when the DB-Zen protocol launched. We're going to have something very similar with Hyper. So because we have Hyper in the future, we're going to have 2 big initial community onboarding events that people are going to be focused on. And then it will kind of take on its life of its own. But that's also a reason we started talking about Hyper now, so that people know. So we're probably going to have 2 big adoption pushes, like probably the first 5 days, and then the second wave of the community will probably come in on Hyper launch. It's my gut feeling.
I like that. And, you know, the biggest thing for me, right, is when I started reading the white paper is just the thought of the fair launch and being able to get in on day one, right? But you can set how many miners you want, what kind of ladder system you want. I think that is just given the normal crypto user, even if the more advanced crypto user, the ability to really get as in depth or as simple as they want to get, you know. And the fact that I could set ladders with one button, right, or set 100 miners if I wanted to with one button, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, and this came from just interacting with a bunch of protocols. Like with some protocols, you literally just have to fucking click like a monkey 1,000 times
Yeah,
to get your stuff through. And
I've
I'm
done
like,
it.
bro, just batch it. You know, it's user experience. Because I mean, I used to be a lead software engineer, and I was back end and front end. So I used to develop with like Node.js and make mobile applications. So I actually developed the DApp. So people will see I'm not an armchair developer, because you see the DApp is very well developed. And we came at it. There's two things you want. You want to have a very simple marketing message, which we achieved at Miner ROI, and you want to have a very simple user experience when it comes to creating miners, because something like miners can sound very complicated, but if you actually go to the DApp once it's live, it's as simple as clicking a button. And then you have three options. You have single miner, where you just want to create one miner; batch miner, where you can create a bunch of miners at once, just in one transaction. So you only have to click once. And then you have mining ladder, which will automatically organize your mining ladder for you, send all the functions to the smart contract, and smart contract takes care of everything. This is just good user experience in general. And when people have a good experience with like the foot, so what a lot of people will very likely do is they'll come to the tab, they'll create a very small miner just to kind of see how it works. And then if that experience is good, they want more because they see all the stats and they see like, oh shit, this is the future ROI. And that's when they come in heavy. And that's why something like the batch miner and the mining ladder, that's going to be for like power users. So people are probably going to start off one miner, just kind of figure it out, and then batch mining ladder, and then they're going to become a power user.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be good.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, if it's easy for the user, it just seems like simplicity really goes a long way in crypto. Especially when we first kind of got into crypto, it was one of those things that we knew what it was, but we didn't know why it was that way and what the actual real world usage with it. And it just all we need to do is just kind of just spark a little bit of like a like this is interesting, and you don't need to solve all the world issues or anything. It's just that little spark, right? And the simplicity of a nice looking dApp, clean, easy to use, right? A white paper, just like your white paper. I mean, it was pretty easy to read, even if you didn't know anything about crypto, in my opinion. So I'm super excited, man.
This is also another thing, just from have been in crypto so long, and having been in crypto so long, and just watching a bunch of content creators. One of the issues that a lot of people make as well is I noticed this with Hex. So I was very deep in the Hex community. I still love the Hex community. They're some of the smartest people. Is some of these content creators, they start the stream and then they talk about bullshit that nobody cares about for 30 minutes, and then they get into the good stuff.
Mhm.
It's like same thing with the white paper. It's like, oh, crypto was created for XYZ, and then they have like 3 pages talking about crypto. I'm like, bro, just tell me about your protocol. Stop with the philosophizing. You
Right.
know?
The
Just get to
the
the meat.
whole landing page is just filled with an essay about what crypto is going to accomplish and stuff. I get, yeah. Yours starts out with pumpamentals, and I love that. TitanX.win pumpamentals. I love that. The amount of I personally have a question on the mining power. And a lot of people, everybody that has kind of talked to me and tweeted at me, and they're in the comments now, they're saying, I'm going full length, full mining power. If you're let's say a medium to small bag holder of ETH and you want to get in this protocol, is there any suggestions on whether you should try to get 100 mining power or find a sweet spot on the lower side? I know the ETH that you need is really affected by it, but just kind of what would you say about that?
So the reason we did the miner power is you have two variables you can manipulate on a miner. One is how long it goes, starting at 1 day to all the way up to 280 days. And then you have mining power, which goes from 1 up to 100. Mining power dictates how much you pay for the miner, and also dictates how much Titan you get, so it moves linear. So the cost per Titan you get at the end of the miner is the same. But if you do, for example, okay, it is important. Mining power dictates the cost. Length dictates how much you get. But you can also have like a 1-day miner and 100 power, and it will cost the same as a 100 power 280-day miner. Just the longer out you go, the less you pay per TitanX, because you want to reward the patient. And then mining power essentially dictates how much it costs. So a max miner on day 1 will be 0.2 Ethereum. When we say max miner, we reference 100 mining power. And but you can also do 10 mining power. Let's say, for example, the reason we did it like this is all of us probably have like wallets that have 0.06 Ethereum or 0.08 Ethereum. And you're like, maybe I should put like 0.04 to work instead of just sitting here. Well, then you could come in and you could create a miner for, I think 20 power. 20 power. And that way you can put 0.04 Ethereum to work. And then the lowest you can go is 1 power. So on day 1, it's 0.2 Ethereum per max miner. And then if you do 1 power, it's 0.002. So anybody can pretty much get in. And they get the same cost per TitanX. I would recommend doing max miners if you have the money, because it's a lot easier to organize. But other than that, that's kind of why we did the mining power.
I like that. And it seems like if you have, like, let's just say you have like 0.2, right? 0.2 Ethereum. And instead of wanting to do 100 on one stake, you could do 1 on 100 different stakes if you wanted to, right? You could kind of set those out and kind of have a ladder, if not just have, just basically every 100 days kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is something I've noticed. So very important terminology is you have miners, which create tokens, and then you have stakes where you can use your tokens to stake. But when it comes to there's a lot of like game theory talk in the Telegram. And then once everybody kind of gets through it and they understand the game theory, everybody kind of comes to the same conclusion of like, hey, a mining ladder is probably the best option.
Yep.
But you don't fully max at 280 days with everything you have, but you do like 50 days, 60 days, 70 days, or like 50 days, 100 days, 150 days, 200 days. And you kind of build so you have like the full spectrum. Because obviously there's going to be bumps at different intervals, and then maybe you'll be able to catch a bump, etc., etc. Everybody smart just kind of starts, okay, I'll max Chad. And then,
right.
I think a mining ladder is actually best, and everybody just kind of ends up settling on a mining ladder. And me as well. Like mining ladder seems like the best option, in my opinion. Because then you can also take advantage of the staking payouts. Like, for example, there's a very big staking payout that will happen on day 90 and day 369. Like, let's say you want to be part of a 90-day payout cycle. You could set your miner to end on day 89 or day 88 and then stake it so that you get that payout cycle. So a lot of miners are also going to be timed around the payout cycles, is my guess. Because I've seen a lot of people like, hey, I want to be part of that staking Ethereum reward. So they're timing their miners to end like just before the staking cycle, and then they're going to stake it, get their Ethereum payout, then use their Ethereum to start more miners. I've seen a lot of those game plans pass by in the Telegram.
Yeah, and I'm going to just pull up the rolling payout cycles just for people to see. So, and just if you could give a little overview, if people aren't familiar with this, kind of how this will work, because this is, everything that we've talked about is amazing, right? I really do like it and really am bullish on it. But this is probably my favorite part of this whole protocol, because it seems like if you really give the protocol time to work, right, with this, every 8 days, like these rolling payout cycles are they compound hard, so if you just give any information on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, the reason we did it like this is we saw out of pretty much every staking protocol, except the ones that like skew to the long term, is what usually happens is you have these short-term players that come in, and then they buy a bunch of coins, they stake it, they get whatever staking payouts, and then they just kind of dump and run away from the community. The only way to stop that is to have big events in the future where they want to be part or stay in the community for like at least 90 days or at least like 300 days or whatever, because they want to be part of the big payout. So essentially what we did is instead of the payout cycles 100% happening like every day or whatever, we split it out into the future, but it's every 8 days. So, 8 plus 8 is 16, 24. On all of those days is going to have a payout cycle. Then every 28 days, every 90 days, every 369 days, and every 888 days. And this ticks over. So some days you also have 2 payouts happening on one day. One of those examples is day 56. So day 56, you have 8-day payout triggering, and you have a 28-day payout triggering, because 56 divided by 8 is, how much is that? 7?
7.
Yeah, 7. So you have an 8-day cycle triggering, you have a 28-day cycle triggering, and this also makes it so that all of the early Ethereum that comes in, it gets split up, and older people that come in, like before, example on day 820, somebody comes in, they can still benefit from the Ethereum from the early people because it's stored in this payout cycle. So it's all not geared towards early people. You give, there's meat on the bone for everybody coming in,
Right.
pretty much. So this gets the community to focus on the long term, and you also create these big news events. Like the 90-day cycle is happening, the 3696 cycle is happening, and you kind of have these built-in rolling big news events in the protocol. It's kind of nice. And people can promote it.
It's really nice because, like you said, that these get locked into these different rolling payouts, and the fact that someone can come in almost 2 years later and benefit from the original stakers, and it just seems like, obviously you see all of the forevers on here, and people really like Hex has a very, very good tokenomics, right? I love Hex. Um, and it gives everybody an opportunity, but it kind of incentivizes people that are a little bit earlier than people that are now, right? Obviously, the T share rate is consistently going up price wise and everything. And this just seems like it kind of locks early, middle, end users, kind of say, hey, we got a lot to offer. These payouts are coming in the future right now. These have already been paid out, I think the stats on these, when we get, say we get, the 3,200 days in, right? And we see all of these different stats on everything that's going on. I think people will really realize, I mean, it's going to happen sooner than that, but you know what I mean? The stats on these are going to be insane. I think.
I mean, I think in the beginning it might be crazy because I've seen some game plans around, like the 90-day payout. The first 90-day payout will probably be a very, very big one. So I've seen a lot of game plans around people just obsessed with staking. People just love the idea of getting Ethereum from staking their coins and that yield being liquid. I'm actually most excited about the mining, but for some reason, like I have like some of my friends run masterminds, so I've talked to the other masterminds and stuff like that, and all of them seem to be obsessed with this idea of like staking and earning Ethereum yield. They love it. For some reason, I'm most attracted to the mining, but other people just seem to be so in love with staking. So it attracts in different people. It's nice to see. I like it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you could be in this protocol for the ETH in particular or the TitanX, right? And it seems like it's got a really good balance on both of them, in my opinion. I just can't believe that these really do go on forever. To be completely frank, the fact that rolling 8-day payouts, rolling 28-day payouts, rolling 90-day payouts, that is just super bullish. Super bullish.
Right? Because there's always big news events. I like it.
Yeah. And obviously I love the numbers. I'm a numbers guy, right? And for the life of me, I've always been like, the clock hit 12:34, right? The clock hit 11:11, right? My mileage on my car hit 11,111. Like recently, it just hit 88,088, right? Just things like that. It just seems like certain numbers really come up a lot in my life, and I like these. Is if I could be a little nerd on it, but I like this.
I worked with a bunch of I went through a bunch of numerology courses, and I worked like one-on-one with a bunch of numerology coaches. So there's a lot of, because one big belief that I have is we just live in the matrix, and we just live in a simulation, and numbers are a way of communicating with the simulation. And I've always been a big believer. Like, for example, Elon Musk was born on the 28th, and a lot of credit has to be given to GG33. He's probably the best numerologist that's able to educate people and doesn't sound like a complete lunatic. So a lot of credit to him. But every piece of code, we rewritten the code like 3 or 4 times, or have redone the models like 3 or 4 times, just to make sure everything is numerology-wise very clean. Like, for example, we avoid the numbers 4 and 13, because in Chinese numerology, Those 4 stands for debt, 44 stands for double debt. So Chinese numerology, they actually, in some big buildings in China, they actually remove floor number 4 and floor number 13 because they believe those energies are linked to debt. So we actually read out the code a bunch of times, and even the naming and the ticker, a lot of it is based on gematria. So gematria, numerology, and astrology as well is also written in the code. Because one of the things you notice, we promote TitanX a lot with the dragon symbol. 2024 is the year of the dragon, and TitanX, that X is not by accident because 2024 is the year of the X.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gematria, astrology, and numerology written into the code.
Yeah, and
So
I'm
you can
not sure
leverage the
any
matrix.
other developer really put any type of thought into it like that, right? And you're coming from a different viewpoint, different life you've lived and everything. And obviously, I've been a watcher of your content for a while, right? Kind of carried me through the bear market, but the type of books and the type of thought process you have towards certain things really makes me uh, I just like that kind of thought, right? You know, if it's certain things, I'm not a superstitious guy or anything like that. I don't really believe in good or bad luck, but statistically speaking, I will always lean towards having good luck, right? I don't believe in it, but I'm going to lean towards it. And I just think having those little nuances written within the code that if you know what you're looking at, you can find it, but
Yep.
it just gives it good vibes kind of being pushed out there. I really like that.
100%. The book that completely changed my life was Reality Transurfing, and like one of the other things I kind of ended up talking to with some numerologists was I I genuinely believe. So, for example, with astrology, you get born under a certain energy, and then you have enemy years, enemy signs, and friendly signs. And everybody's life just seems to operate under these energy signs, where in their enemy year, they end up having very, very bad things happen to them. Or even if they have success, karma ends up coming back because they did it in their enemy year. And if you get born and you get described with energy based on, astrology, or numerology, your birthday, your life path, all of that stuff, I believe when you interact with code, the code also, like for example, when you start a miner and you have all of these different numbers, it kind of locks that energy and puts it into the miner. I believe that stuff very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe in angels and demons. I believe in light energy, dark energy. I believe in all of it because, yeah, this is a very long story, but people just kind of. So I was big when I was like 12, 14 years old. I was big into astral projections. So I think I had one was kind of a fluke, but I've had 2 or 3 real out of body experiences that completely changed my life. And I'm actually fearless of that because I don't think that exists. I believe your soul just moves on. And this only really comes because I used to be extremely logical, like very logical, only non-fiction books, software engineer, all of that, as
Mm-hmm.
logic as they come. And then through reality transfer, through having all these spiritual experiences, I've never done ayahuasca or any of that. Just astral projection, spirituality, reading books, reality transferring, and seeing how it just put my life on an exponential path after you kind of start leveraging these ideas. I believe in all of that stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the world how the world operates.
Yeah. And I like that, man, because it just seems like you really put a lot of thought and effort into that, and especially with your life situations and experiences that you've chosen. And if you truly believe in stuff like that, then putting it into the code really matters to you. And if at all it helps, you know what I mean, which it easily could. And I really think that's going to be really good for the protocol, especially just having that the good juju on it, right? And
Yep.
it's to say it as elementary as possible, right? You know.
I see somebody posted in the comments. Can you get into some technical specifics for batch miners? I've seen the coin tool fiasco with Zen, people getting discounts, claim plus remit. Yeah, so this is also a big issue we solved. The issue that Zen has, it's based on gas fees. So if the gas fees are high, it's good for the price. If the gas fees are low, it's extremely bad for the price. And because you cannot control gas fees, we didn't want to build our protocol around gas because one, all the money goes to waste, and second is you just can't control it. That's a big issue. So I'd rather have controlled inflation with a predictable cost or price floor that moves up over time very heavily. So the GUI actually doesn't matter at all. Like people pay a set cost in Ethereum, and that set cost only gets more expensive and they only get less. So it becomes more expensive and they get less, which creates an exponential price floor. So we should have a curve in the chart that goes up and to the right pretty much when it comes to the price floor. Because you especially see this with Bitcoin, is every bear market, the Bitcoin price seems to trend towards the cost of production that miners have to create one Bitcoin. And so we took that principle and implemented it into TitanX. So we base it on a set cost of Ethereum instead of gas. So the gas actually doesn't matter at all. And TitanX should, the price curve, the floor of the chart should trend towards the cost of production of TitanX, which only moves up over time. It looks like an exponential curve. Yeah, and if you go to the white paper in the daily update, there's some very important math at the bottom of the page of the daily update section. I won't read it out loud. People have to pause their screen. It's if you scroll down all the way to the bottom. Yeah, this kind of under the chart. Yeah, here. This kind of spells it out. So the cost to produce one TitanX actually moves up 55,000x if the Ethereum price stays the same. Now, if the Ethereum price is a 5x, it actually moves up 250,000x the price floor.
Wow.
Because it's all based on Ethereum.
Right.
So this timing also isn't by accident. Like we're launching. So I call the Bitcoin bottom on the day, and I have evidence of that on my YouTube channel. And then you kind of go sideways for a year. So November 2022, we hit the bottom. Then you go sideways for a year. You kind of operate in a range, which we hit next month in November. November is next month, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we hit that in November. Then we kind of go linear up until the Bitcoin halving, which is in April. Then maybe you have one scare dip, and then you're off to a full raise bull market, pretty much all breaks loose. So this timing is also perfect, and it will also launch on a very nice date.
Yeah, the timing couldn't be better, honestly. And regarding Pulse and Pulse X and stuff, I don't think they released those at the optimal time, but I also think they just wanted to get them out there, right? And I think putting this rate before the year of 2024, and as you said, it's a really big year for I don't would you call it again? I'm sorry.
Wait, what was the question?
The 2024 year. What do you call?
The 2024 year is the year of the dragon, which is the dragon is a symbol for money. So there should be very big monetary shifts happening in 2024, which we kind of see coming with the next bull run of crypto, CBDCs, all of that stuff. So the year of the dragon kind of represents that. And then you also have the year of the X, because of how the gematria works on the year. Yeah, there's a lot. The timing is
good. Yeah, chef's kiss, right? The time is really great.
Yep.
Permanent says, I wonder if Smooth and Jake will address the questions in the chat. Yeah, I think the last 10-ish minutes of this live stream, maybe about 10 minutes or so, we'll just kind of run through the chat and just kind of get all of the questions to see. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just people posting 777 in the chat, but other than that, we'll get to the questions for sure. All right, let me just see if I have so the max length stake is well into the 3,000 days or so ish, right? But the 280 days, what does the 280 days represent for mining and staking and stuff?
So the 200 days is just the longest you can go out with a miner.
Mm-hmm.
So the way mining works is, so on day one, all miners get 8.8 million TitanX on that day. Then the next day it starts reducing. They get 8.78 million, then 8.75 million, and it starts moving down. So everybody follows the global reductions, and the sooner you start, the better, because you get the highest payouts. Also, at the start of your miner, the sooner, when I say sooner, it means as long as you get in during the first day, everybody has the same stats. But then when the day takes over, the contract starts reducing everything. And this is kind of how you create this exponential price floor. So I'll give you an example. If you start a miner on day one, on the first day, you'll get 8.8 million TitanX. If you start a miner on day 281, you start at 3.3 million TitanX.
Oh, wow.
So it's a massive reduction. And then it kind of starts leveling out. So we go from 8.8 million a day until the protocol caps out at 800 a day, which is an 11,000x decrease in TitanX per day, which is why the nominal inflation pretty much just becomes 0.001%. And then it should become a deflationary coin because proof of burn still happens, the buy and burn still happens, all of that still happens. So the supply that comes out will become extremely negligible, but the supply still gets burned. So it will become a massively net deflationary thing, even after all the caps are hit.
Mm-hmm. And so this question says, is this a layer one of some kind? Right? In my opinion, right, it's obviously built on top of Ethereum, but it is a layer one in some essence of being able to be built on top of, right? You obviously have Ethereum being kind of your foundation, but everything from that foundation is fully TitanX, right? So, in my opinion, it's kind of a layer one, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I need to find a name for this. I call it base layer, but it's not a blockchain.
Mhm.
Basically, what will happen over time is TitanX will attract a lot of liquidity, also because of how the liquidity pool is built. It will attract a lot of liquidity. So there's going to be a lot of liquidity in the ecosystem. And then people can choose to build their things on top of TitanX, which will attract percentages of that liquidity and just push the entire system up. So I call it kind of like a base layer. I'm trying to figure out a real world example. I'll kind of have to work on those metaphors,
Mhm.
but it's not a layer one like a blockchain, but it's people can build on top of it so they can use TitanX to launch their protocol or implement it in some way. And then the community is the asset because a lot of developers, they frankly suck at marketing. So what they do is whenever they launch a token, no matter how good it is, I think it was H. Hart that said this. I'm not even sure. But a good idea is only as good as the amount of people that know about it. So you can have a good idea, but if you suck at marketing, it will get no adoption. Nobody will care about it, even if it's
Mhm.
the best thing since sliced bread.
Right, right.
So by building on top of TitanX, if we have a bunch of influencers, a bunch of content creators, a big community, if you build something on TitanX that is good and the community adopts it, you instantly adopt the DeFi native wealth in the community, which is exactly what developers want. Because they can build great protocols, but they can't market. So by building it on top of TitanX, they actually use the marketing vehicle that is the TitanX community and the liquidity.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah, the next thing it says, and obviously we don't want to talk any prices or anything like that before the launch or anything. But this is kind of just an interesting question. It says, won't it dump to very low prices once miners and traders dump the coin in the first 280 days? Um,
Yeah, that's a good question.
I have thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear what you think.
Well, it can only really dump if there's very small liquidity to the downside. So liquidity will build up over time because of how the buy and burn works. But we actually made tweaks to the buy and burn where the Ethereum comes out sporadically over time, so that even when they dump on day 280, there's going to be a crap ton of Ethereum in the buy and burn contract that will get unleashed to completely cancel out that dump. Because if we can get through the first 280 days and the people making a bunch of money, for example, and then they dump it, well, then the buy and burn is just there to save the day. And that's
Mhm.
without any users buying. So a lot of this protocol, if we can get through the first 280 days, which is designed to do very, very simply, then it's all breaks loose. Then it's good. Because that's the biggest fear people have. And I don't really see it happening because even the old miners, they get enforced the price floor because every day they get a little bit less. It's not like they lock in the number of TitanX per day. They also get the global reductions.
Mhm.
So what I think a lot of people will do is they'll mine and then they'll just max stake and then participate in something like Hyper. So there's four classes of people in TitanX. There's miners, so people who create the supply. There's stakers, people who stake their tokens. There's burners, people who go into protocols like Hyper, for example, and transform. I like saying transform instead of burn. Transform their TitanX into Hyper. And then there's builders. So there's kind of the four big classes of people in TitanX. Yeah, we're going to have to see, but I think it's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
There's been some magic tweaks to the buy and burn that we figured out with the second auditor.
Yeah. And what I'd say permanent 360 is I really think people underestimate how this buy and burn actually will affect the price and will help kind of negate some of the bad actors within a crypto, right? Everybody wants to make money, everybody wants to, get some profits and whatnot. But I really think the way it's designed with the rolling stakes and how that buy and burn kind of holds coins willing, just waiting for things to certain kind of scheduled things happen, right? If something, like you said, if something happens where before the 280 days, people just cash out right then and there, we have enough for a buy and burn to really kind of negate it and kind of make it null.
Yep. That's gonna be like a what just happened? I can't wait.
Yeah, so the next one says, well, hyper launch before people get their hands on their max day miners so the price doesn't dump at 280. So
We're trying to get it out before that for sure.
Yeah, so obviously, if you guys don't know, TitanX will launch first, and then that will kind of start the hyper train, as I'd like to call it, working towards that. So
Yep.
you see yourself building. Yeah. So it says, Jake, do you see yourself building more than just hyper?
Maybe we'll have to see how things play out. There's definitely a bunch of things that I want to see built. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously this has been a TitanX and hyper has been a work in progress for a while. You took a little hiatus off of YouTube to really kind of lock in and work on it. So, in my opinion, I think Jake is going to see how it plays out long term, right? Once he gets hyper out and once he keeps an eye on it and sees, like, if I built this next thing, it will help both things, right? I personally think you're just going to keep building stuff on top of this protocol to kind of keep making it more sticky, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in general, people love building. Like, for example, the Pulse chain is a perfect example of this. People sacrificed a lot of money to be a part of the Pulse chain kind of genesis, and because they have so much money invested, they start building stuff on top of it because they want to see the investments do well. So if we have a diehard community where people, and this is how do you say this as a founder, people become financially well off, for example. Then they probably feel inclined to build on top of it. And then you will kind of have these builder community ecosystems. Like, for example, somebody in the Telegram started like a TitanX projects Telegram group, and people are already brainstorming and all the stuff they're going to build on top of Titan. And I never talked about it. I didn't make a Telegram group, and there's already like 30 people in there.
That's all. That's awesome.
It's interesting to see. And it's not even live yet. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of videos and a lot of game theory put into this, and we don't even have a hard date. We don't even have a rough date. You know what I mean? Obviously, you said kind of late October. You're thinking of doing it, but audit depending, right? If you do that third one or not. So people are really gearing up to play this. I mean, there's a ton of game theory in the Telegram, so if you guys aren't, I'll put it in the description for you guys, so you guys can look at it, because it's pretty awesome. A lot of people are kind of coming at it from all types of different thoughts and angles and stuff, and I know that's kind of just helped your game theory in your head how it would play out too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, one of the tweaks that we made with the buy and burn was actually because of the Telegram. And this is kind of like a counterattack because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy on market and then dump massively because the buy and burn is just gonna unleash everything on day one. And I was like, what if we didn't do that? It's still gonna play out that way. There's massive diminishing returns on unleashing everything on day one. So there's still gonna be, and this is also a big design thing that we did, is we decide the initial the ratio in liquidity. So I don't own the liquidity. I can't rug pull it even if I wanted to. There's no admin keys to access the liquidity. It's all owned by the buy and burn smart contract. So we set the initial ratio. So we actually want to have a chart that goes from bottom to top, not like Zen where it starts at the top because users set the liquidity and then it goes to the bottom. We want the opposite because it looks better.
Yep.
So that was a big design idea. So that big spike up, people are going to be able to capitalize on it. So I think on the first pool, there's going to be a lot of action in that pool. I don't even know if I'm going to participate in it because I see people build bots. So they're like the first one in the liquidity pool. I'm like, maybe I'll just chill on mine.
Yeah, right. That's and that's kind of how I think too. I'm just gonna play it as simple and as long term as I can. right? And that's just kind of how I play crypto. I definitely have only risk capital in crypto. I'm not a uh, everything I own is in crypto, right? I do a lot of real estate stuff. I do a lot of house flipping. I got rental properties and stuff like that. So exposure wise, I'm maybe 10% crypto, right? Maybe. And so I've already set the real estate up too much for me to kind of mess with that ratio. So I'm definitely a long-term holder. I haven't really made any type of crazy moves. Obviously, during the bull run, you're in something, you're out of something, whatnot. But this whole bear market, I've pretty much held and accumulated the same kind of thing. So I'm hoping that once this launches, I could accumulate this as much as possible before kind of the catalyst of a Bitcoin halving or whatever. But
Man, hats off to you.
there's some other. Sorry, you go
I'm
ahead.
I'm crypto native, dude. Like 100% of my net worth
Yeah.
practically is in investable net worth is in crypto. So the way I've always kind of done it is I live a very good life. Like for example, this apartment I'm in is like 7 grand a month US.
Hmm.
So I have 12 months of living expenses always on the side, and then any kind of income I make on top of that just directly goes into crypto.
Yeah.
And then I kind of do some yield strategies on crypto and stuff like that. Right now, I've just been sitting in stablecoins, waiting for Titan. But then on Titan, you can yield, you can do miners, and you kind of start playing the game again. Yeah, so that's always how I've done it. Real estate was never something for me. I've always just been a full crypto head. That's always
Yeah,
been my thing.
dude, trust me, I wish I could be, right? I just did too much real estate too early for me to kind of stop that train from going. But
Oh, that's
dude,
good.
I would much rather be, in my personal opinion, 100% in crypto. I like it and love it that much that I'd rather be 100% in crypto. But at the same time, I got a girlfriend, I got properties, I got mortgages, and once you just start that train, it's hard to change that percentage because then I get overexposed one way or another.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm crypto until I die, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So I'm fully with you. I'm actually jealous that you're 100% in crypto. Like the only stocks I have is in my Roth IRA, and that's it. Everybody talks like, dude, you need to get this or that. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I got houses in crypto. I think that's a good ratio for me.
I think a lot of it also has to do like this bear market. Like last year, I got a couple citizenships. Just so one of the things that I've also come to realize after a while, because I joined a bunch of like networks where they talk about how to become sovereign, have multiple citizenship, have backup plans, all of that stuff. Crypto just allows me to be flexible because if you have real estate in a country, it's very hard to detach from that country unless it's like owned by, trusts and LLCs, and even then you're kind of still linked. That's why I've always liked crypto because you can just take it across the border. It's in your head, it's on paper, whatever the hell it is,
Yep.
and you can just take it anywhere. That's always why I've been 100% crypto because it allows it to be flexible. But then the big thing is if you're 100% crypto, you just have to understand the cycles. Like I exited roughly around the Bitcoin top and then just practically did nothing until November 2022.
Hmm.
So if you understand the cycles, it's very safe to be in crypto. If you don't, you'll see your net worth drop by 95%. So
Yep.
understanding the cycles is the game
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. I like to call it movable real estate, right? That's in my opinion with
Yep.
crypto, right? Because you can travel. It is the only asset ever created that you can physically go wherever in the world. And for the most part, people will take crypto as, payment, as kind of service payments, right? You could just pay somebody with it directly for a service, right? There's a lot of different things you can do. And real estate, although it's nice, and I'm not saying we're in a bubble, right? I don't want to put that in the air, but it's one of those things that you get very, very heavy into into real estate, and you're kind of stuck. And that's kind of why I'm at the percentage I'm at, right? Because I just got overexposed to real estate, and that was kind of in that 2016, 2017 era where I just was like, I like crypto. I just don't fully know why I like crypto. And so I was
Yep.
just going heavy into real estate. And then I continue to watch videos and kind of educate myself. And eventually you realize, but for me, it was a little too late. I own crypto and I had it for a long time, but I didn't know why I had it. You know what I mean? Until kind of
Yep.
recent few years, I would say.
Yeah, like man, 2020 was a massive wake up call. That's also when I realized, man, maybe I should look into multiple citizenships.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's when I really started. Like that's when I was like, nah, I'm not getting locked down ever again.
Yeah.
That's
And that's kind of unfortunately I am locked down, right? In my opinion, I kind of have to be. My girlfriend's in medical school and she's going to be a doctor at somewhere or another. So I unfortunately, if it was just me and I was flying solo, I'd probably be living in a different country completely. I don't even know if I'd be in the United States. I'd be somewhere else. So, um, I'm
I mean, that's
unfortunately I'm locked in. Like,
that's kind of the interesting thing, right? Because you don't have to physically move. You can also just turn your assets over to a Cayman Islands kind of legal entity, or there's a bunch of other ones like UAE entity or whatever. You can disassociate your assets. Like this is kind of like the tax side of it. Yeah, I mean, I've spent so much time learning this stuff since like 2020.
mhm.
Yeah, because that really scared me. I was like, damn, I need to be prepared. Like,
Yeah, trust
yeah.
trust me. I have been preparing ever so
Mhm.
slightly, continually to prepare, and you know I I have a somewhat addictive personality when I get into something, right? I really, really dive into it. And once I really started to like crypto, I went kind of full in and I definitely overexposed myself right in the like middle of that bull run. And I caught a couple good projects, right? I caught some good pumps, and but one thing I did is I stopped sports betting. I stopped playing poker, right? I stopped playing blackjack, roulette, whatever, right? I stopped gambling, period. And I was like, if I'm technically gonna gamble, I would rather gamble in crypto. In my opinion, right?
Definitely better odds.
Definitely better odds, man. The house always wins, and you think you yeah, it's a rough life, and overall, I can proudly say I'm up in gambling, but I don't want to. I was getting a little too risky with it, and I was like, yeah, I'd
Man,
rather put this, and
I
it could do a
think
lot bigger.
I think a lot of us entrepreneurs have an addictive personality. So, like for example, when I got into partying when I was young, it was just every day almost.
Mhm.
So I've never touched drugs. I've never touched gambling because I know once I start, I'm gonna get addicted to it.
Yeah.
So I've never done psychedelics because I know I'll like it, and then I'll become addicted to it. So I've
Hmm.
always been very careful because I think to become successful as an entrepreneur, I think we all have that like ADD addictive personality type because it's kind of what's required. It's very interesting. Yeah. So I've never ever. I don't think
Yeah.
I've worked in a casino like as a student job, like behind the bar and stuff, being a bartender. Um, but then yeah, I've never gotten into it because I know I'd get addicted.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't go to the casino until I was like 24 or something like that. And the next thing you know, 24 to 26, I was there.
Yep.
I was really in there. And I mean, I was playing poker probably 6, 7, 8 hours a night, not getting any sleep. And don't get me wrong, I was pretty good, but at the same time, it's not healthy gambling. And I felt like I was like the risk capital that I was using to gamble was not risk capital. You know what I mean? Like it moved past that point where I was trying to earn my mortgage kind of things. You know what I mean? So I totally dropped it. It feels great that I haven't done it in a while. And I can really just lock into working, crypto. And this past month, I've been really gearing up in my YouTube stuff. And it's kind of really based on coexistent Steven, right? Him making a video and kind of really gearing up and your project. Those two things solely kind of reinvigorated my wanting to do YouTube. And it's pretty awesome, man. I feel
YouTube is
great
awesome.
being back, man. It's awesome. And I know you've taken a while off too.
Yeah, because I just knew I couldn't do both of it because if you do a live stream, you're mentally drained, And then I was also running a mastermind on the side, so we put that on pause. Like the moment I started building TitanX, we stopped taking people in. So I think that was like 5 months ago, because I was like, this is going to take 100% of my mental bandwidth to make this a good thing. Otherwise, it was going to be some mediocre, shitty kind of thing. It really requires all of your attention. So you just kind of have to pick and choose. I've definitely had to budget more in the last 5 months, because I'm like, hey, the cash flow kind of stopped. So I was like, okay, I have to budget a lot more, and I was fine. And I kind of guessed it was going to take 6 months to actually code the entire thing, build it, model it all out. So I was very well prepared, and then now we're here.
Yep. Well, man, I'm really happy that you jumped on, man. I think a lot of people, obviously, what we talked about wasn't 100% TitanX and everything, but I think a lot of this stuff really does carry over into the mindset of the average crypto investor, the average entrepreneur, and stuff like that. And I just really respect your opinion on this kind of stuff, because you've really put in some work reading books and really kind of imagining the world in a different light, and it's been awesome to talk to you for this long, man.
Hey, we can do this a lot more once TitanX's live.
Yeah,
I won't have
that's
anything to do anyway, it's immutable code, and then it's just all marketing.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely down to do as many live streams as you want. And once we have more stats on the things that are really happening in concurrent time, then it's like, dude, we could talk about stats forever. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be so many different kind of ways you can look at these stats and different ways you could play the system. You'll have a lot of content to be able to make out of this stuff when it starts really getting rolling, man.
For sure, man. I'm excited.
Well, man, I really appreciated you coming on, man. I know we didn't go like 2 hours or anything. Hour 16, I feel like that's still pretty good. We gave some alpha. People learn more about hyper, which is awesome. Really keep an eye on Jake Sharp's Twitter. Once this live stream goes live, I didn't do it before, but I'll put all the links to your stuff and the white paper and your Telegram and everything in the description. But yeah, other than that, closing remarks, anything you'd like to say?
If people want to learn more about TitanX, I think the best way to do it is if you remove the comment from the screen, if you see my name, Jake Sharp, just type that into YouTube. You'll land on my YouTube channel, and the white paper video is there, so people can just watch the white paper video, because I recorded a video running through the white paper. I think a lot of us, especially if you're watching live streams, you probably prefer like the visual method of learning. So I think a lot of people enjoy watching the white paper instead of reading it. So that's why I kind of made that.
Yep. Well, I'll put that in the description for you as well. Because I know one thing, I read the white paper multiple times, but then the moment I watched that video, I was like, no, that's more clear. I feel right? I like that a lot better.
I wonder why not more projects have done that. I don't know. It's so simple, People consume things differently. Some people do audio, some people do visual, some people do written. So you kind of need to, especially for core content like this, like the white paper, you just need to have all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and like say someone reads a story and the other person reads it the same exact story, their view on what the characters look like and the settings and everything look like is so different just based on their imagination. So putting a video and really putting like, hey, this is what I meant by this, and line by line and everything, that really helps the average user to really kind of engage with it.
For sure.
Yep.
All right, this is a good one.
Yeah, Jake, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm sure we're going to be doing more live streams in the future. Yeah, TitanX. Definitely follow Jake. He's going to be putting a ton of information on Twitter, and he's going to release it as soon as he can, man. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a really great time.
Likewise, I enjoyed it.
All right, man. See ya.
You.